Hey everyone, it's your horror BFF. This channel is dedicated to all things horror. We will chat about movies and books as they come out throughout the year. We'll talk about our favorites, we'll talk about our not so favorites, and just be in community together to talk all things horror. I'm also a horror writer. I have two books that are finished, and I'm plotting out my third one right now with ideas percolating for four and five. My the second one that's finished is currently sitting with literary agents, and yeah, that's going that's going really well, as you can imagine. At least that's what I tell my therapist. Anyway, I'm happy to have you here. Let's chat all things horror, books, movies as they come out throughout the year, and then updates as they come out. And I'm just excited to be here with you. As your horror BFF, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about the 1997 classic, I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, I Know What You Did Last Summer screams kind of not so entertaining cousin. It's kind of a bland 90s slasher. And I'm not hating on it. I love this movie. I frequently come back to this movie. I probably watch it at the beginning of every summer. Um, but as I watched it in preparation for this video, I asked myself, I'm like, what is so special about this movie? Like, why do I continue to be drawn back to it? What is actually special about it? Beyond like teen heartthrobs, overflowing cleavage, and like an advertisement from North Carolina, like what actually makes any of this movie special? Um, Still working on that answer, but hopefully by the end of the video, I have come up with something. So, one thing um, so many people don't know is that I Know What You Did Last Summer is based off of a novel by Lois Duncan, which was written in the 1970s. Um, I actually found this at a haunted farmers market. My local town does a haunted farmers market, and there's a whole bunch of booths and horror related themes. And there was like this vintage, it was like vintage books, vintage stickers, vintage like horror movies in VHS. It was amazing. So I found this for $5, and I absolutely love it. But so this the book was originally published in the 1970s by Lois Duncan. Uh, Spoiler, it's not very good. But I could go off on a whole tangent about horror novels that were written in the 70s. Um, I'll save it for another video because I have opinions. Um, Spoiler alert, nobody actually dies in this book. Like, she doesn't kill anybody. Anyway, so Kevin Williamson, a lot of us know, wrote the screenplay for Scream, which everybody loved. He actually wrote a screenplay for I Know What You Did Last Summer first, but it wasn't like, you know, it didn't have enough there for them to want to like produce it and put money into it. So like Scream happened, and then after that, he pretty much got to do whatever he wanted. And I Know What You Did Last Summer came about that. So I Know What You Did Last Summer is based off of an urban legend that went around a lot. Um, is the movie original? No, but it's a fun 90s horror classic, so we're just going to overlook that. So, four high school students. It's Jennifer Love Hewitt, it is Freddie Prinze Jr., it's Ryan Phillippe, and my queen, Sarah Michelle Gellar, in the very beginning of her Buffy era. They play high school students at the end of their high school careers. They're all excited to go out into the world. They still have all of that like high school idealism. So it's like big celebration night. Helen, who's played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, was just crowned the Kroger Queen, Croker Queen, Croker Queen. I don't know. Somebody will tell me in the comments. Um, so they're going out, they're going partying, they're drinking on the beach because I guess that's like what you do in North Carolina. And they stumble back to the car, and they're driving in these like crazy hills, and they're blasting music, and they run somebody over. They hit somebody. They're hoping it's a deer, but obviously they're not that lucky. So they all kind of decide not to call the cops, which, here we are in the audience screaming like, are you dumb? And they're like, you know what, we're going to dump the body in the water, a lake, an inlet, a reservoir. I don't know, something that just goes out to the water. I'm an idiot with these things. So they've dumped the body, and he on his way down, he like grabs Helen's crown, her new crown, and Ryan Phillippe's character Barry like dives in completely drunk. He's still drunk. And again, like maybe that's like being 17, 18 years old. I would never do that, especially nowadays. If I was that drunk, I would be comatose. But so he dives into the water, goes down, gets her crown, and realizes that the guy that they hit is still alive. Like his eyes pop open. We all know it's going to, but his eyes pop open underwater, and they just like let him stay there, like floating at the bottom. So he comes back up, and they're all sobering very quickly. And he drunkenly forces them, Ryan Phillippe's character forces them to promise that they're never going to tell. They're never going to tell. They're just going to let it go. And we all know how well that's going to go, right? So the story picks back up a year later. Um, it zooms in on Julie, played by Jennifer Love Hewitt, and her hair is stringy, and they've got her in baggy clothes, and clearly college is not treating her well. It looks like she hasn't seen the sun in months. You know, very heavy handed, them letting us know that she is feeling this pretty hard, has been all year. So she returns home for the summer, and before she meets anybody or talks to anybody, she gets a note in the mail. I know what you did last summer. Uh, my husband knew I was filming this video, so he left that for me around the house. So that was fun to find. So she gets this note. She goes to find Helen. Well, she goes to get Helen's phone number because Helen has moved to New York, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, only to discover no, she never even escaped the town. She is still working for her family's department store with her bitchy older sister, and hasn't left. So they get together, they go over to Barry's house, and that's when we discover that Barry's character, Ryan Phillippe, it's just so much teen drama. It's so much teen drama. They've broken up. Um, Newsflash, he's still kind of a dick. Ryan Phillippe plays the dick character almost too well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's a consistent thing in his career. He's typecast for a reason, maybe. Anyway, so they get together at his rich person's house because he is the richest teen in town, is what they kind of make it seem like. And he's trying to calm them down in the sense of just gaslighting them and telling them they're overreacting, and that he doesn't actually believe them until it happens to him. Then all of a sudden he can believe it. He's going to the gym because he's some kind of like football star, I think they allude to. I don't know. I don't care. So he goes to the gym. He's working out. He's the only one there. For some reason, the gym is at the edge of a pier or right next to the water. I don't know. I've never been to North Carolina, so maybe tell me if this is normal. But so he's working out, and he discovers that somebody has stolen his jacket and stolen his car keys. So he gets dressed and he runs out, and somebody is inside his very nice BMW, and basically tries to run him down and hits him. And he's just like in this pile of rubble and wood. And suddenly he's like, oh, maybe we have a problem. So they talk to him in the hospital. And now Barry is like, oh yeah, this is a real thing. Somebody's actually coming after us. And the girls are like, yeah, dumbass, we've been telling you that. So with Barry in the hospital, because he's broken an arm or something, the girls, Helen and Julie, decide that they're going to go into full research mode. Like, drop what you're doing. We got to figure this out. Because obviously, if you're being hunted or like psychologically tortured like this, you're going to make it a priority. So they find Missy, which is a deranged Anne Hesh, and she does a great job. Like this like you go to this house out in like the sticks of North Carolina, and you're driving up and you see a bunch of like animal skulls on a house that looks like it's days away from being abandoned. And then she just like pops out. Of course, you're going to be like, I don't want to be here. This is terrifying. So they come up with a bogus reason of like why they're there. But we find out that Missy is the sister of the person that they thought they hit the summer before. That it's um, her brother that they killed. Is it? It's not super clear. But again, whatever. So they have these like really weird interactions as they're trying to get to the bottom of how the brother died, or like if anybody else has stopped by, if the police have questioned things. It's all very sus. But Missy, first time around, is like, oh, I have visitors. That's great. Nobody, nobody visits me. So they're done with research, and at the same time, they're having these conversations because Helen is obviously upset that Julie didn't keep in touch while Julie left for college, and Julie is like, we have bigger priorities right now, which fair, I get it. So Helen goes home, and the way that the cam is moving, we realize that somebody else is in her house other than her family. And then there's a shot where we see the guy in the slicker, which again, we discover that whoever's like chasing them, because Barry revealed that, is like wearing a slicker, which could be like 75% of this seaside town in North Carolina. Like everybody has slickers out there. So it really doesn't tell you anything. Anyway, I digress. So we see this guy going up the stairs, and we immediately assume that he's going into Helen's bedroom. And she gets ready for bed. Everything's normal. And she wakes up in the morning and discovers that he has like chopped up her hair. She had like beautiful long hair, and now her hair's chopped up. Shout out to Sarah Michelle Gellar, which I will eternally do. But she has this like amazing scream because he wrote like, I know what you did last summer in the mirror in her bedroom with her lipstick, and she just like smashes the mirror and screams. She's an official scream queen. I will say that forever until my death. But so she has this amazing scene where her hair's chopped off, and so obviously she calls Barry and she calls Helen. Um, and I already forgot his name. Freddie Prinze Jr. Ray. Simplest name, and I forgot it. He's like been around, but not really, which of course makes it suspicious. But so Julie's been called because Helen's had her hair chopped off, and it's a big old deal. Which, by the way, like, is he just toying with them? Are we just delaying the film? Were we just working to get to 90 minutes? He had all these opportunities where he could have just killed them. Like Barry, he could have taken out at the gym already. And with Helen, like, he just cuts her hair. I get that he realizes that she's vain, but that would require him watching them for a really long time, which I guess he has been doing. But, you know, it's that psychological torture that honestly makes it a lot worse. So Julie is on her way to Helen's house. It's like midday, and she hears scratching in the trunk of her car, which of course we know from a lot of the urban legends, like scratching in the car, in and around the car, is part of the story. So she pulls over. We're on pins and needles. She's on pins and needles. We know something's going to be in that trunk. And it pops open, and it's the body of Max, which is a friend of hers from high school. And he's like covered in crabs. Like there's crabs crawling over his dead body. Um, Side note: as they were filming that, the body of Max, which is played by that one guy, he was in Big Bang Theory, Johnny something. Somebody will tell me. Um, the double of his body was so realistic that Jennifer Love Hewitt just like panicked and freaked out and like couldn't finish the scene until she called him on the phone, and like confirmed that he was okay because it was so lifelike. Which fair, they did a really good job on it. So she's looking at this body and she's like circling around, looking to see who's around. And there's like crabs everywhere. And I have to ask, and it's, I know we're supposed to suspend disbelief. I know we're supposed to, but like how? Like the logistics of it. When, at what point did he have time to take out this body, which was probably in the frozen section of his boat, which we find out later, and load it in there, load up a whole bunch of crabs without her noticing in the middle of the day? I don't know. And maybe that's my thing. Like watching these movies, I can only suspend disbelief so far. I don't know. Anyway, so she slams it shut and she runs into Helen's house and she tells Barry and she's like, "Wow, okay, well, yeah, your haircut's an issue, but I have a bigger issue." Um, Not a lot of time has passed. Again, the logistics. I have like 20 questions. She's not in Helen's house for that long and says like there's a body in my trunk, and so her and Helen and Barry come out of the house, and Barry takes the keys from her and pops the trunk open, and it is, y'all, spotless. How did I need people to tell me in the comments, was this a moment that was also hard for you to believe, that because this is kind of like a 90s classic, we just kind of acquiesce to the fact that this would be impossible for him to do because she's parked on the street in the middle of a neighborhood, and they come out, and not only is the body gone and all the crabs are gone, it's dry and it's spotless. And like, how did he do that? It's one of the things that just gets me. It bothers me so much, as you can tell. We get the iconic moment here. The camera's spinning, the trunk is empty, they're all freaking out, and we get the iconic, "What are you waiting for, huh?" And it's, we know that that line made that movie famous. But that was actually like a day of edition, that quote. There was some kind of like contest going on where it had to do with kids, and a contest winner could get to spend a day on set of a very big movie. And so there was a young boy that won this contest, and he was on set that particular day, and the director was like, "What do you think? What do you think is something that she could say?" And he said, "What if she spins around and says, 'What are you waiting for, huh?'" And Jennifer Love Hewitt thought it was ridiculous. She was like, "Are you kidding me? Are we really going to do this?" And then she did it, and it made the whole movie and made it into the trailer. And now it's like when people talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer, they think of that. They think of her shoving her arms back, frankly, just like pushing her boobs into the camera and saying, like, "What are you waiting for, huh?" It was like a quintessential teen slasher movie moment, um, which of course she's happy about now. But yeah, that was chosen by a young boy contest winner. Kind of interesting. So the body's gone. The three of them are panicking. Ray shows up, which is Freddie Prinze Jr., because he's been working. He's the only one who has to work out of all of them. And, he's like, oh, he's panicking because, hello, he got the letter too. But they've either been run over or had a body in their car or had their hair chopped off, and all he got was a letter. So they're like, this doesn't seem very balanced. This doesn't make sense that you're only getting a letter when the rest of us are like nearly being killed. So again, it's like the movie is pointing us towards him, and it's very suspicious. So they're trying to figure out what the next steps are. Here it is, 4th of July. It's the reunion day of them thinking they killed somebody last year. So Helen, as the Croaker Queen, has to go to like the talent show, which like is so cringe. But she has to go to a talent show, and then as the queen, she has to be in the parade. She's gonna cancel, but they're like, no, you have to go in case he's there. Um, no, no, I would rather hide. But she goes with a fantastic new haircut and has to watch this like parade thing. She does the parade thing and sees everybody in slickers and thinks everybody's a suspect, which, like, fact, I would too. Then she does this talent show thing. She's up on the stage, um, witnessing it all in a weird way, and she can see Barry up in the, like, the rafters, the balcony, and he's all by himself. And it's like, dude, safety in numbers. Why wouldn't he just, again, I get it. It's a teen slasher movie. We have to separate them, but it was almost like his, just like his own hubris, thinking that it wasn't going to happen to him. And guess what? It did. He was up in the balcony, and Sarah Michelle Gellar's character looked up and saw, the silhouette of the slicker, and you know we get to see it. He is absolutely hooked, I guess is the word that I would use. And she's screaming and she's trying to get up there. And like everybody in the audience is like holding her back, like she's crazy, and won't let her get up there. And here we go again with my inability to suspend disbelief long enough. So here we have an auditorium full of people, and I'm assuming a lobby full of people, and a town full of people because it's the 4th of July in like a seaside town. And somehow this guy kills a teenager up in an attic and like drags his body down through a lobby across town to his boat. Like there's not a lot of blood left up in the attic, which I don't know. I feel like if you've been stabbed, you might leave something lying around. Doesn't. Somehow he gets his body out. Maybe it's just me. Let me know if I'm wrong. It's just one of those things. I was like, how did he do that? How could he be so magical and meticulous to clean up, get all that stuff down? Did he have a tarp down? Did he back up his truck to like the alley and then just dump him in? I have so many questions. So many questions. Ray is missing or working or whatever. Barry's dead. Um, Julie is out talking to the sister again, the Anne Hesh character, and kind of investigating more, raising more red flags because she's trying to zero in on who this person was. She's so convinced of the person that they ran over last summer. Um, and the Anne Hesh character is like, no, you're wrong. And then we have Helen, who has just witnessed her ex-boyfriend Barry being murdered. And so she's on her way home. The cops are going to take her home, and then the slicker guy, our slasher, shows up and takes out the cop. And she's like such a good long fight scene. I've been watching her for years as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so I always expect her to be better and outsmart and be very clever. I get that it's completely different, and we don't get that here. That's fine. So, um, he's relentlessly pursuing her through the streets, and she's running in heels and gets to her family department store where her sister is still locking up. So she gets in, she locks up, and is trying to hide. And then we discover in a back room her sister gets taken out as well because the side door on the side street was unlocked, and she said it just a little bit too loudly, and the slasher heard her. So we have this great scene where she is in familiar terrain. It's her family department store, and there's mannequins everywhere, and they're all covered in like plastic sheeting. It's a great shot. The whole scene, I just love it so much because she's terrified and she knows that one of them has to be the slasher. Like he has to be in there, and we're right. We're proven right, but it's still a great moment. So she shows a lot of this cleverness and this desperate, like desperate attempts to stay alive, and she kind of keeps outsmarting him, goes to different floors and tries to get out of there. So finally she escapes. She starts running. She's running down this long alley, and we're thinking like, yes, one of these characters is going to survive and it's going to be amazing. Then in like classic horror movie fashion, she pauses to look over her shoulder because she thinks she hears something. She is within sights of the parade and everybody walking by. There's fireworks going off, there's music being played. If she had not hesitated, she would have been fine. But she looks over her shoulder because she hears a noise. And when she turns back to face the parade, the slasher slicker guy is standing in front of her. And that's lights out for Helen. It's terrible, and she's screaming, and her death is drowned out by a stupid tuba and a marching band. Which, how embarrassing is that? Terrible. So we're all bummed about that. Not fun. Not fun at all. So we're staring down the climax of the movie. Um, Julie has figured out that they may not have hit who they thought they hit. She comes down to the pier, and she can't find Helen. She can't find Barry, but she finds Ray. There, he's working on his little boat, and she says, like, "Hey, we we killed someone, but it wasn't who we thought it was. Um, like that was any better, right?" And they it was like they hit some guy who killed another guy, but not the guy they thought they killed. This guy was a different guy. I know. It's it's not super clear. They were not aiming for an Oscar on this one. Every time I watch this movie, I forget this detail. I'm like, wait a second. So who's this guy that opens the movie on the cliff? And then who's this guy that they actually hit? And then who's this guy? It doesn't make sense. I forget it every time. Um, so she's about to get on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s boat, but then she sees that the name of his boat is Boy Blue, Billy Blue, which is the nickname he gave to Anne Heche's character when he was like hanging around her house trying to get information. Anyways, it's very suspicious. So Julie runs because Ray's the only one left at this point. So she runs, and this other fisherman who, like, I don't know, he looks like he's dressed like Luke from Gilmore Girls, and so you're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trust this guy. He knocks Ray out with one of those like close arm things, whatever it is, and out. He tells Julie to get on his boat and that he'll take her to safety. When does that ever happen? Never. That's, oh yeah, just get on my boat. No. Julie's on the boat, and the fisherman hasn't arrived yet. She's like poking around, and she goes into his, like, can you have an office on a boat? Like, boats have offices, right? Or like a captain's room. I don't know. I clearly know nothing about boats. So she goes in there, and like scrapbooked on the wall are articles about the 14s and photos of them over the last year. Surprisingly, photos from that day, that somehow in between killing a whole bunch of teens, he had time to develop photos. Um, and so she's looking at all this stuff, and you guys, the look on her face as she put all of these things together, I would argue, takes a couple seconds too long before she's like, oh, I should get off this boat. Yeah, this is the wrong boat. But our fisherman arrives, and big surprise, the guy that looks like Luke from Gilmore Girls is our slicker slasher. So he's turned the engine on, whatever. He's starting to float away with his boat. Um, she has realized that he is our killer. So she's running around the boat, Julie is, trying to hide in anywhere, which of course, like, he's going to know every inch of this boat. So she's down on this like second layer where there's like all these doors, like, not, they're not trap doors, but they're, I don't know. I know nothing about fishing, but she gets into this room that has it's like an ice chest room, where you can like ice fish, with just the fakest ice cubes we have seen in movie history. Just watch them knock around together, and like how clearly they are not ice and not cold at all. Anyway, so she's rolling around in this ice trying to get away from this killer, and that's when she discovers Helen's body is in there and Barry's body. So now, like, the dread is setting in for her. The hopelessness is setting in for her, and she's just like on this boat that's sailing out into these North Carolina waters alone with this killer. So we find out that as the boat is like sailing away, Ray, Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character, has like hopped in the water and is like slowly climbing through the ropes, like on the side of the boat to come rescue her. So he starts getting in a kerfuffle, I would say, fighting with this fisherman who is, has obviously revealed that he had killed the other person last 4th of July, and then they hit him with their car. And, he has this great problem of like saying, when you leave a man for dead, make sure that he's actually really dead. Comes back to bite them, but whatever. So they're fighting, and at one point his hand, the slasher's hand with what's holding the hook, gets like caught up in the ropes or whatever, in the rigging. And Freddie Prinze Jr., being a boater, being a fisherman, knows what to do, and he like hits a little button thing, and it just goes, and our villain loses his hand, and then his body is just like flung out into the water. And typical teens, Julie and Ray are like, great, problem solved. He doesn't have a hand anymore. Forgetting the immortal words of the fisherman, which is like, when you leave a man for dead, make sure he's actually really dead. They didn't, but it's like, it's a 90s horror movie. We didn't learn any lessons. We didn't learn any lessons in the 80s. We didn't learn any lessons in the 90s. So this is why we're getting sequels. That's why we gotta. I still Know What You Did Last Summer, which was enjoyable, but that's for a different movie. So that's what I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1997. We're at the end of it, and we have to ask ourselves, what is so special about this movie? Maybe this movie's not special to you. It's special to me. It's special to a lot of my friends. But why? Like, in the 80s and in the 90s, and nowadays too, but we had movies where we really liked seeing teenagers get punished. Definitely became a trope that a lot of filmmakers are uh, making a lot of new material from nowadays, and kind of questioning it and replaying with that trope. um, I don't know, it didn't matter. There's a reason why the slasher genre is still so popular. So is that why we love it? Is it because this movie had multiple like teen heartthrobs that absolutely were having their moment in the 90s, all over the cover of Tiger Beat and Teen Bop, and all over, maybe that's why it was popular, is because there were really popular teen actors, probably in their early 20s, um, that were in this movie. And nowadays we're seeing a lot of horror movies that have like debut actors. I'm thinking of like Bring Her Back and Talk to Me and Hereditary, and some other, even just the new I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot. There's a lot of actors and actresses that are kind of new. Um, so like maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Do we love it because it was released in the 90s and that was a time, I don't know, I think about it. It was like a time for many of us that we're still nostalgic for. Like we look back on the 90s and think like, wow, that was the last time we were allowed to feel idealistic and secure and safe about the future. And so some of the worst things that could have come out of the late 90s were just like horror slasher movies of like, this is the worst that things could get. And then obviously the early 2000s happened and everything after that, and it was like, oh, I don't know. I just sometimes I feel like the 90s are just this bubble that we had where everybody just felt better and optimistic. I don't know. Maybe that's why we love this movie so much, because it's in a bubble. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you loved it, um, or if you hated it. But let's be nice, everybody. Um, Let me know if there's things about it that bothered you, like the logistics. I just need somebody in the comments to tell me that they're also, the logistics of this slasher is like hard to believe. I can't be the only one. I can't. Um, Let me know what you thought of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and let me know if you're actually going to go see the reboot, because they're rebooting it with a whole new series of teens. It's coming out in a couple of weeks. Somehow they brought Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt back to do it. I think it's because the reboots are really popular right now. Um, the trailer looks meh, but I'm a 90s kid, so I'm definitely going to go. Let me know if you are as well. If you had fun with me here, feel free to like and subscribe to this channel so we can have lots more future horror chats. Here's what's coming up on the next video. I am super excited because it's summertime. Here in my state, the sun is finally coming out. We get it for exactly maybe 2.5 months. So we lean into summer really hard here. So the next video that I'm going to do is summer horror books. I'm going to feature Fantastic Land, and one of my personal favorites for summer, because it is absolutely terrifying and so incredibly gross, is The Troop by Nick Cutter. I'm going to feature a couple of other books too, but these are the two main ones that we're going to do a deep dive into, talking about summer horror and like the threat of survival, and just truly how wild these books are. So yeah, I'm happy to have you here, and I hope to see you at the next video.